company called Executive Connections. We're a career coaching organization based in the UK. I've got colleagues and coaches spread far and wide. We've been running for over 10 years now. And this series is a series where we touch the point of many of the main key areas that people talk about during career coaching engagements, let's say. And hidden jobs market, which we're doing today, is one of the popular ones. Obviously, there are many more, but certainly this is the one we're going to talk about today. So I don't know whether you are engaged in a job search right now, but if you are, then you've probably heard a lot about the whole hidden jobs market piece, and you can look at different statistics and different bits of research and so on, and you'll find different percentages. Very often I've seen 80% of jobs are not advertised, so where are they? But I put a very low percentage here just to sort of hedge our bets, so we're not getting crazy about it. Suffice to say, it's a big sector of the market if you're not doing anything at all to try to tap into that market as it stands at the moment. So it's about jobs that aren't advertised, isn't it? And a lot of this is accessed via just networking and ramping up your networking activities, speaking to people you don't know, speaking to people that are outside your immediate network. That's the key part of this, really. One other thing within referrals, in the middle section there. So some large corporate firms have got internal referral schemes where if you allow them to use your social media channels to advertise a role they've got, then you'll do that, and you'll get a sort of an incentive for doing that. So there's lots of different means that don't come across the main, the main kind of formats or the main job posting boards or LinkedIn or anything like that. But there'll be a few stats here. All I want to do is convince you that it's an important thing to do, and that if you're not doing any kind of work on the unadvertised job market or the hidden job market, then you're missing a trick, basically. So obviously they want to, organizations, when they're advertising roles, or even recruiters actually want to save money. If they know somebody who knows somebody, they can pick up the phone, get a good candidate. That's what they will do. It's anything about saving the pound or the dollar at this point. That's really important. So I would say that their own networks is where they will look first. So you've got to try to tap in to those networks as best you can. The simple way of doing that is just enhancing your own networking, making sure that you are ramping up your activities. Have you just got a nice LinkedIn profile, or are you actually, engaging in regular connect requests, and you're sending out lots of different activity? Are you sending messages out to people after you've connected? Are you recording that in some way? Are you looking at your who's viewed my profile piece on LinkedIn? A lot of this does involve LinkedIn. There's no two ways around it. 1 billion users these days. You've got to be on that platform, but you've got to be using it really properly as well. Just a little takeaway phrase there, really. I think people will often say to us when they come on board as potential clients, let's say I'm having that conversation with somebody, they'll say they've got a good network, but it's been a while since they've stepped outside of that network, maybe, or started to reach different people. And I know we've had a few people join since I started, so just to say, we're looking at the hidden jobs market today, but when it comes to Q&A at the end, the questions are not restricted to the hidden job market. You can ask whatever you like, and actually, if you want to put something in the chat and just sort of tee up a question, you might prefer to ask it that way rather than ask it in this kind of forum. I try and make the forum as friendly and open as possible. If people are comfortable, put their cameras on, that's great, particularly if you're asking a question. But if not, if you're just not in that situation, or you prefer not to, I understand that, put the question in the chat. So networking, how do you do this effective networking? It's one of the things that we teach people how to do. It's not just about reaching out to people and coming across all desperate and pushy and needy and so on. There's ways of doing it. There's better ways of doing it. So in terms of professional associations, if you're, depending on your discipline, you're going to be involved probably in some level of professional organization or association. and just ensure that you're keeping those contacts going. You can see a spreadsheet or some kind of method appearing here where it's about doing certain things on a monthly basis, certain things on a weekly basis, and so on, and just making sure that you're keeping that rolling. In terms of thought leadership, we talk to people about this in terms of what you are doing about promoting your own brand. So how do you get across more people's radar? I'm not suggesting for 1 minute that you stop applying for advertised roles, but again, it's a conversation we have a lot with people around. I've applied for 100, I think 800 was the highest I ever had. And I would say to somebody, stop way before doing that. If you're doing lots and lots of applications and something is not right, I am not saying stop doing applications. What I'm saying is build in this piece within your day-to-day job search activity. So thought leadership would be, you can just like, comment, share other people's posts and add a comment, share it to your own feed. You can also, though, write your own content. And a post these days, you've seen them. A post can be, as long as an article, almost. So put something down at least once a week and just get your expertise out there. Why are you doing this? It's not a look at me thing. It's about getting in front of more people, getting across more people's radar, as I often put it. So when it comes to informational interviews, if you're not familiar with that phrase, it's reaching out to people that are outside your particular knowledge base, maybe, or your network, where you can meet up for a coffee or a virtual coffee or something like this and share professional knowledge. You're obviously trying to glean from that individual what happens in their world. If you're looking at a bit of a sector change, maybe, you're also able to add some value to the conversation by bringing your expertise to that conversation. And that's the mindset I would always, apply in that kind of informational interview scenario. So yeah, make sure people see you, and you can have a nice profile on LinkedIn. You can just sit there and wait for things to happen. I think in many cases it won't. Just be wary of that and reach out to people on a regular basis. Again, more stats for you. So that they come from LinkedIn. They've probably changed just the same as the amount of people using LinkedIn changes exponentially. But again, connections. How do you do that? So it's something that we talk to people about as well, where maybe people have got their own network, but as an organization, we've got a large network as well. We don't put people in interview seats, but they're often people that we can make introductions to, and that helps to enhance anyone that we're working with. It helps to enhance their network as well. But this is the kind of thing you can do yourself also. You can start to reach out to people. You can set a target for yourself in terms of new connections that you want to make. You can have a strategy for what will your connect requests say, the message. What will any follow-up message maybe that you want to put out to that person, what will that say? So yeah, I think that it really is a route into the hidden job market. It's not the only one. You've got face-to-face networking events. They still exist, I assume. I've not been to one for as long as I can remember, but they still exist and they still have their uses, and I know some people like them more than other people, etc. I don't know if you tap into your alumni networks at all on LinkedIn, but there will be people that you've studied with, in various ways, shape, or form over the years, perhaps, and just keep it as another thing to do. Reach back through to that alumni. You can find that feature on LinkedIn itself, and you'll see it. You'll see it pop up sometimes. Steve also studied at the University of blah, 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 whatever it might be. And not just a bit more anonymously like that, but you will know people, and those people by now could well be in very interesting roles and maybe in positions of influence as well. So alumni networks as a feature on LinkedIn, worth looking at. Now, really, the recruiter piece, it's something that is almost anathema to the hidden jobs market, because recruiters themselves are only dealing with a small percentage of roles. If the large percentage is not advertised, then why are we talking about recruiters? I think it's important to build relationships with, there's not a strict number about this. Some people I say do 4, 5, 6, maybe a few more. Pick recruiters or headhunters that really do engage with you and just keep those relationships going. as much as I hear complaints about recruiters not calling people back, then I think one of the other benefits is to make sure you keep in touch as well. Ironically, they do like it when people pick the phone up and call them. It is an irony because often you don't hear back during a process. I appreciate that. But so engage, and you're on this kind of journey in your job search during a certain period of time, just keep in touch with people and keep ramping things up, ramping up your activity. And I know you'll be well ahead of your industry trends and things, I think, but I think you've just got to be aware of this. If your job search is dragging on a bit, then what's been happening, what's come into the market, what's come into play, how is AI affecting your particular sector, your particular role, what you need to be aware of on that one subject, perhaps, and other areas. Just make sure that you're keeping bang on top of things. And I'll say something here, it's probably not slightly unrelated from this, but it's popped into my mind. I think you'll be aware of the Google, well, not just the Google main search engine, but the Google News search. So if you're heading to an interview, then have a quick look on Google News, make sure there's nothing for that organization that's popped up in the last day or 5 or so that would be useful for you to know heading into that interview. Google News is good, and I think that's something that you can also use in this kind of context as well. So the personal brand piece and being magnetic and so on, there's a number of different elements to it. It's about taking LinkedIn as an entity. Yes, you're on LinkedIn. What are you doing on LinkedIn? What's your value proposition? Do people find it easy to understand what it is you bring to the market and what you want to be known for? That's one of the key things to bear in mind, really. So personal brand isn't just a catchphrase. Oh yeah, I'll get my CV done and my LinkedIn and that's it. It's all got to be congruent. It's all got to sort of relate to each other. You've got to be talking the walk as well when you get to interview stage, obviously. But it's about being present and getting across as many people's radar as possible. It's the only way I can put it. About this increased ramped up activity, trying to access the unadvertised job market. There's a needle in a haystack element to it. There definitely will be. But you need to get across more people's radar to even be in that, to have a chance of doing that. We talked about the informational interviews, I think, already, and I think it's just a question of it's something that people overlook. But if you're stepping outside of your sector, people like the word advice. Could you give me some? I appreciate it if you could help me. If you could give me some advice on something. People like that word. It makes them feel good. Usually, people want to be helpful. So if you approach it in that way, then set up a few calls. Talk to people. Don't just talk about, yeah, I'm looking to get into your company. I'm looking for a job, etc., etc. You're just trying to gather information about the culture of the organization, maybe anything that's happening that you need to know about, within that company. So treat informational interviews as just an extended version, an enhanced version of having a networking conversation. I mean, it's a difficult one to talk about, persistence, because we speak to a lot of people these days, and the whole piece around mental health and resilience and so on is so strongly in amongst or underpinning all of the coaching processes that we get involved in these days. You can almost just take it for granted, but we certainly don't. And I think that you will meet a lot of rejections when you're going through the job application process itself. As well, and the other phrases like a no is one step closer to a yes, etc. And I know this stuff is easy to say, and I know how much work goes into preparing for any given interview, only to come up with some disappointment. It really does help when you've got 2 or 3 things on the boil at once. I think that does help the sort of mindset quite a bit. So stay strong is all I can say with that. Do whatever you do, whether whether you're into mindfulness, you do breathing techniques, whether you do meditation, whatever it is you do, look after yourself in that kind of context. So some of you I know on the call, some of you I don't. So the other reason this particular screen is up is because of the recordings. So we get people from HR as well as job seekers themselves looking at these recordings. So it will be in the chat as well. at this moment, I believe. But there will be 2 links. And if you want to get something in my calendar, the top one, if it's directly for yourself, and if you're in HR and you want to discuss the unfortunate circumstance of redundancies happening or something like that, then you would be using the bottom link itself. So, and feel free to do that as and when. You'll see the kind of call, the way we lay out that kind of discovery call. It's quite open, it's quite honest, it's there to help you. It's an opportunity, and we want to speak to people who are seriously considering working with us. So take advantage of that if you want to. Some people that did just that. Now, I'm very big on testimonials, and I'll just stop very briefly on this because there are plenty more of these on the website, but sometimes when someone's talking about a subject, you don't know where it's coming from, you don't know what it's grounded in. So here's some real people that we've worked with, just a few. We like to try and encourage people to leave their names and photographs so that the authenticity comes through a little bit. So yeah, coming back to the room, basically, we've talked a bit about the hidden jobs market. And if you joined a bit after the start, what I said at the start was that even though the hidden jobs market is the subject of this, then we can talk about CV. Oh, ageism is one I didn't mention. That comes up sometimes. Interview skills and practice, how do you role play? How do you prep for an interview? Anything more around personal branding, anything around recruiters. I'm open, putting myself on the spot, shall we say, but I'm open to, I'm open to questions. I think we've got something in the chat already, but I'll stop the share now. So we'll come back into the room. And yeah, any thoughts or comments on the hidden job market? Good to see you here, Shahid, by the way. We've swapped some emails this morning, haven't we?
Apologies, we did very early this morning.
So yeah. Is it something that you tap into, the hidden jobs market, while I've got you on the open?
It is, but not necessarily. I think I've got a couple of big to-dos, which is raise profile on LinkedIn via comment, as you said, all those ingredients of commenting and having a view or asking for thoughts. Haven't done it as much as I should do. Did do it about 5 years ago, haven't done it since. But I think the network is really important. Just reaching out and being honest with people. Someone you may not know, just telling them, look, I'm on the hunt. You'll be amazed at how people respond to some of these things. As you said, people are there to help. And, if you've got a good relationship with someone, they'll always be willing to give you a hand in trying to find an avenue. Yeah. I've certainly found that more recently. I do, however, say, I have to say, I find the physical, what we've forgotten since COVID, the physical getting together, that was the norm, is really helpful. If one can invest in it, it's worth doing. Yes, I understand. So yeah, they come in different forms, don't they? Quite casual, down to quite posh lunches and things like that. It just depends on what you want to do and what kind of forum you want to be in, I guess. I'm just trying to keep to the best quality coffee shop. That's my enticement. Yes, indeed. Yeah. I think that does not cover the big brands, by the way. No, definitely not. No, I understand. If you're a connoisseur, then we're on the same page. It's I'm nowhere near that, but we'll have an offline discussion around that. Yeah, we will. Life is too short for bad coffee. That's what I always say. Too true. But yeah, so yeah, thanks for that. And thanks for jumping in. So yes, we've got a few more people on the call that I haven't spoken to, but as I say, if you've got a question, then feel free to put it in the chat as well, or if you've got any thoughts around what we've talked about today, then feel free to ask. Bear in mind, if you think, well, actually, all right, I always feel this is quite a cozy forum and quite personal and personable, hopefully. But if you don't want to ask questions and you think, well, I'd actually prefer to have a chat about my own situation, that's the time to use the link in the chat, basically, at the end of the day. So yeah, hidden jobs market. Has anyone got a job through the hidden jobs market before, or anything they relate to as being the unadvertised jobs market? Yes, Ulrich. Yes.
Yeah, I did.
Hello from Johannesburg.
Sorry?
I said hello from Johannesburg.
Hello, back to UK.
Yeah.
Um,
Okay. You didn't tell me that.
okay, no, honestly, Steve, I received somebody approached me. It was about a year ago. A company, it's an international company, and they approached me via LinkedIn.
Yes.
And through them, I actually got a job. Let's say it's an association job, but it's like what I'm doing, career coaching and all that.
Yes. Yes.
And I think I never saw it advertised anyway. So that was I never experienced it like that. So
Yeah.
that shows that you really have to be consistent and being on your LinkedIn profile, working with it, getting out there, just saying hi, and just what you now presented to
Yes.
us.
I agree
So
with you. Yeah, it connects to what Shahid said as well about it makes you feel, quite positive about human nature when you sort of, you reach out and you speak to people and you don't need to use trigger words like, oh, I'd appreciate your advice, and things like that if you don't feel comfortable doing that kind of thing. But just having a conversation with people, I think it really does help, and it really does make a difference. A couple of elements to it. People will focus maybe on having an optimized profile and get obsessed over a bit like getting obsessed about your CV. They'll get obsessed about the LinkedIn profile, keywords. Have I dropped in a few keywords here and there, so I'll come up in searches near to the top of the results, but forget the bit about actually being active and engaging in thought leadership activities and all of the general. We don't have to call it thought leadership; just call it, advanced networking. And just being present. So I agree with you fully. I think having a great profile, an optimized profile on there is one thing, but that's only really a small part of the story at the end of the day.
just another comment. Maybe it's a bit far-fetched, but what I also believe, and I think that is might come true, it's also about your inner, that you believe that you are going to find a job, like having that positive energy, believing in yourself and all that, like, yes, I can do it. I believe that, if you find that you're ready, opportunities are coming in.
Right. Yeah.
Right? It sounds maybe, but it's not only about the technical stuff. Okay, obviously you have to do your work, but then I always call it the universe sees that you are ready, and then pathways are opening.
Yes.
I find it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot in that, and there's a lot more pressure these days with everything post COVID, in the way that people are feeling and the way that people are more prone to ghosting each other these days as well. It's just become more prevalent, and I'd say both ways. It's not just recruiters ghosting candidate. It could be it could be easily be the other way around, at times. So yeah, I think having that positive mindset, whatever works for you, whether or not you're thinking about it's from a religious context or from a law of attraction context or just being positive context, whatever it is, then I think, that really does, that's really a good comment to make, because otherwise it can also flow over into the interview situation. If you're a little bit uptight, you're searching for a role, you get into an interview and it's sort of, you could be taking that in there with you. And you might think, no, I'm fine. I know, I know what I'm doing. I can do that fine. It can transmit very, very easily on a very subtle human level, and we're very good at picking up on things like that, aren't we? So yeah, I think that maintaining that positivity, and I will say to people prepping for interview, whether you go and do some deep breaths, so on and so forth, whatever it is you do, that gets you in the right headspace, then do it. Absolutely. So yeah, but thanks. How about you, Doug? You've been kind enough to keep your camera on throughout this whole event. You don't have to give any detail, but are you sort of in a search scenario yourself at all at the moment?
Yeah, I've got a slightly different problem in that I think I'm pretty. I am in search. I've been on gardening leave for a little while, and now
Yeah.
I'm kind of entering the search proper, as it were. I've got a quite extensive network, and I'm plugged into a lot of different agents now being from an executive point of view. The problem I face is that the roles I'm aiming for are very senior roles within the industries, within various industries, and they simply don't exist at the moment because of the global stage, because of various things going on. There is what has been described to me going through a bit of an executive role pause that is the worst in 20 years, some people have said. And certainly enough that I can see the panic in recruiters' eyes, executive search recruiters in a lot of instances, because they're seeing a lot more roles actually now being fulfilled through the company's hidden, or own networks, because of saving money or whatever. But yeah, also simply that there's this pregnant pause in terms of wanting to see how certain things pan out, and that might be Middle East, it might be situation with Russia and Ukraine, could just be interest rates, which is a big one. Obviously, that affects private equity markets in terms of what they do with their money.
Yes.
And all of that has a knock-on effect to the fact that the roles aren't getting out there. So that's one of the challenges at the moment. Now everyone is sort of saying things are turning. How much of that is optimistic thinking versus reality, I'm not sure. But that's the current situation. So I agree with everything you said in terms of optimizing everything and reaching out. When I do a lot of networks, I'm plugged in. I'm CIO by trade, so I'm plugged into a lot of various, and I chair a few CIO boards and different things. But yeah, it's a tricky time out there for a lot of people.
Yes. I think that based on what you said, I think it could also be, and it's easy to blame everything on COVID and global this and that, isn't it? But I think it's spot on what you said. It just requires a different level of emotional resilience than we've been used to having to have. And I would say that people, if I relate it to people that we've worked with, yeah, they probably have to go through a few more processes, before they get that end result. I mean, I'd still say that, I mean, it's quite broad, but 3 to 6 months is probably quite a typical journey from kind of, I'm out to the new role. But I think there are a few more cul-de-sacs and dead-end streets and things that seem to happen, on the way to that, and it's good realization you've had, because we've certainly worked with people at extremely high level who've kind of been winding down, say, the last 2 or 3 months in their current role, expecting they were going to go from one and just jump into another, and then 3 or 4 months later, yeah, the panic is starting to set in a little bit, and that's where it comes down to that kind of resilience and persistence and all those throwaway words, but that they're really, really, important, and also about maintaining enthusiasm and just a general positive mindset. Goes back to what Ulrika said to a certain extent. I know increasing numbers of people who get into sort of more self-care these days, whether that be meditation or getting the latest app or whatever it might be. But that just seems to be quite a thing now as well, just in terms of how people are coping with things and coping with not just the job market, but it impacts other areas of our lives as well, obviously, along the way. I would say that from our own perspective, built up quite a nice big network over the 10 years or so of being in business, not just me, but the wider team. And what we try to do sometimes, if someone says, well, look, there's a few organizations that I'm targeting, do you just happen to know anybody? And then we will set up a networking conversation. That's all it is. We're not acting as a recruiter here. It's a networking conversation. It could be CIO to CIO, for example. It could just be CFO. It could be, whatever it might be. And while that has led to job offers, that kind of activity, it shows us another way of doing it. I still think that's good luck when that happens, and I'll say that to anybody from our own perspective, but it just shows that there's always another layer. There's always another layer of networking, and many of the best roles fall just outside of one's existing network anyway. I think there's a lot of exciting stuff that happens out there. So, are you doing the? Sorry if I didn't pick up on it, what you were saying before, but are you doing much or any of the thought leadership pieces, not just in the liking, sharing piece, but in the sort of writing, authoring things, or, you know, podcasting, or you name it, anything really.
Yeah, there's quite a few. I've got a few events coming up where I'm doing panels and Q&As and various things on the basis of my previous roles and experiences from those.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's quite a few things which obviously be good, and there's always a flurry of activity around LinkedIn and things when you can kind of promote something or do something like that, which is good. But
Yes,
like you say, I mean, often I've been very lucky throughout my career, even when I was contracting consultancy for many years. I've never actually, I think, got a job through applying for a job. It's always been through network referral, etc.
right.
And it only takes the one chance conversation at a pub or something like that to then have a chain of events that leads to it. So I know I agree with everything that you've
Yeah,
said.
no, fair comment. Or it could be that you play the same game as somebody on LinkedIn, because I've noticed they've introduced games now on there as well. There's some kind of kind of word games and all the rest of it, and it'll even show you who in your network is actually engaging in that kind of. I don't know what else do we need? but it's it's worth keeping tabs on, and I'm learning more and more about it myself. I'm lucky enough to be in a LinkedIn group where we can share best practices and kind of what's working, and some of the myths around how the algorithm works or doesn't work, and all the rest of that. So that can help a little bit as well. And if you've got any specific questions, I'll do my best to dig around, and just ping me a DM or something, and I'll dig around and see if I can get an answer, either within the group or within the sessions that we've been part of over the past few weeks with LinkedIn. So yeah, happy to do that. But yeah, thanks for your input, Doug. Appreciate it.
No worries. I've got to start,
Maybe we'll speak.
Apologies, but I do need to shoot off. But I'll definitely be in touch. But thank you very much, Steve.
Take care, Doug. All the best.
Good luck. Cheers.
Cheers. Right, guys. I think we might be naturally reaching the end of things here, even though we've got a few minutes to go. If anyone's got any more questions, thoughts, or comments that pops into your head, as often happens, it'll pop into your head just as I conclude the call. So if that happens, then just drop me a DM. I'll be happy to try and do my best to help you on LinkedIn, or if you've already got my email, do it that way. Okay, guys, whatever morning you're having, have a good one, have a positive one. My fingers are crossed for you, whatever you're doing. All the best, and I'll be in touch soon. Take care. Thank you.
Bye, Steve. Bye.
Cheers, Ulrika.